We begin with a special LGBTQ story. I am Dr. Edward Summers, and let's queer up the worldview. As attacks on LGBTQ grow, World Social Justice Day is more important than ever. On June 10, 2008, the International Labor Organization unanimously adopted the ILO Declaration on Social Justice for a Fair Globalization. In partnership with other organizations, including the United Nations and the American Library Association, World Social Justice Day was created. The observation, which is held on February 20th every year, is intended to help create awareness and tackle issues such as poverty, exclusion, gender, inequality, unemployment, human rights, and social protections. The Declaration focuses on guaranteeing fair outcomes for all through employment, social protection, social dialogue, and fundamental principles and rights. As the current administration here in the United States continues to dismantle protections for women, low-income Americans, LGBT individuals, and especially the transgender community, we at Queer News Tonight ask that our viewers continue to fight for equal rights and protections, and vow to continue to shine a light on injustice and inequality in regards to the LGBTQ community. I'm so glad that this is being covered today. I'm so glad that Queer News Tonight is acknowledging such an important day. I think that it's so very easy to forget about days like this because there's so many days that we celebrate so many different things, but now more than ever, we need our communities to stand up for what we're seeing here in America and around the world. We are literally under attack. Our democracy is under attack. Whether people want to admit it or not, everything that we truly believe in here is at stake. You know, with this new authoritarian leader and his sidekick, who's really the president, as we know. But, it's just, it amazes me every day to hear and see the new executive orders, and to also see how, I hate to say this, and you probably would agree with me, Alex, how Congress has crumbled and has just really not, are standing up. It just seems like they have no backbone. I remember when Obama was president and he started to initiate some executive orders, and literally the Republicans said, well, it carries no weight. Like, these are, you can have all these executive orders, but we carry the power of the purse, so we're not going to, adhere to it. We're not going to listen to you. And just such the opposition that the Republicans gained to Obama. But it's so ironic. This man, our current elected president, maybe elected president, I don't know if it's accurate or not, but he says he has these executive orders and everybody just crumbles and just follows it. And who is standing up for us in democracy, right? And I think the Democrats are trying to get their voice, but I just haven't seen it really. I have not seen this overabundance of standing up against this authoritarian leader, this dictator. And so days like this remind us that this fight is long and that we just need to stand together and fight against inequality and injustices.
You're completely right, Edward. And, it's an interesting thing to bring up Congress, because I was telling Greg, the Quinnipiac opinion poll just came out of voters yesterday or the day before. And, Trump didn't have a great approval rating, like 40 to 49. House Republicans, 40-52 disapprove. House Democrats, 20% approve to 68% disapprove. That party, if they do not stand up, they are not going to exist soon. They're just going to be run over because the voters are starting to stand up regardless of which party. And looking at, I see this day and it's like the ILO, I thought it was great that they combine, social justice as both a concept of preventing discrimination, but also fairness and fair play. Because how is Trump hurting so many people? Because he doesn't have to play by any fair rules. He's not specifically saying he's firing people because of race or anything else. He's just indiscriminately firing. And when you can fire without cause, as he's now being able to start doing, you create these terrible outcomes for people. And I think there's that needs to be seen again and again. And that's why days like this are so important. And if you ever need me to remind people how feckless the Dems have been, I can always talk about that too.
Well, I admit to being unaware of World Social Justice Day, but with the ongoing assault on our community and our rights, I firmly believe World Social Justice Day is more necessary than ever. And boy, what a sad situation it is with the Democrats. I mean, it's a good question. Where are they? Why aren't they speaking up? maybe they feel powerless, which is a terrifying thought for a political party to feel that way.
Yeah, and it's a shame. And to your point too, Alex, is that we're seeing the people rise up, right? So over the weekend, we saw these protests all around the country of people rising up. So if the Democrats don't get their act in order, the people are going to rise up. They're going to rise up against Trump, but they're going to rise up against the Democratic Party as well. And to your point, they're going to be the next blockbuster, right? They're going to be obsolete, right? Because there's going to be this new group emerging that will take over, right? And so I want to go back to something that you said too, about the fact that Trump plays by no rules. And it is true. It's just what he recently said, and I think it was a press release or executive order where basically whatever he says is the law. And people are just like, all right. Like, I literally do not get it. The fact that he says whatever I say it's the law, it's like I'm the leader. And so that is very dictatorial. Like,
but he's operating like the head of, he's a failed businessman, miserably failed businessman. He's acting like a businessman. He's treating this country like it's his own corporation.
That he ran into the ground.
But that's what he wants to do. He wants to go. All of his bankruptcies, he's just planning to bankrupt this country.
That anti-democracy tendency is embedded in business. One economist used to refer to companies as islands of tyranny.
That's right.
And because we have allowed companies to create these strongmen, it's not that surprising one stops being a strongman in business and decides to be a strongman in government. Like, we need to look at that and be like, without checks and balances are very good in anything we're talking about. When we talk about a government, but checks and balances are good in business.
Sure,
like this wasn't a business, but the submarine from last year, if there were any checks and balances on that man, there'd be 5 or 6 people still alive today.
Yeah,
that is a very good concept to have, and we don't have. We've seen it end in business, and now we're seeing it end in government. And it leads to a no rules, do whatever the person in charge wants.
Do whatever, and guess who suffers?
Yeah.
The people. We the people who suffer. And what we're going to see is even more grave inequalities. And so days like this is critically important to highlight.
Right.
But to also, I think it does not need to be a day in this context.
No.
We need to be focused on social justice every freaking day, right?
That's right.
Because otherwise, again, we suffer as the people, and we're suffering, and there are people out there suffering. And I think about all the massive layoffs and all the, buyouts and everything like this, and reducing the size of government. Literally, what we're doing, and it's better than race, I think, in power and class, we're creating a permanent underclass.
Yes.
And what the irony of conservatives and conservatism is they want less government. They want less people relying on government. Well, when you do massive layoffs like this, where are the people going to go? Who's going to hire these people? Who's going to hire these hundreds of thousands of public employees who's work for government? Who's going to hire them, right?
Yeah.
And then they're going to rely on what? They're going to rely on public benefits. And then what does the image look like, right?
Cut them.
Right, exactly.
I know.
It's a shame.
That's a very destabilizing. I do want to create a little ray of hope. I saw a great piece in Slate this morning calling for federal workers to go on a mass strike. And I think that's really one of the few things that we have left. It is illegal technically, but in that bureaucracy rule-breaking way. But fine, if the rules don't apply, then workers
we're gonna let's rise up.
The system,
That's
walk out, federal workers.
Rebellion,
Yeah, I've been reading Slate recently as well. And the president of Wesleyan just wrote some articles, and I'm a higher ed buff, and I love higher ed. And what he was saying was that he was calling out business leaders, he was calling out civic leaders, he was calling out higher ed because he was like, everybody's cowing down to this guy. He's like, no, let's not cow down to him, because in higher ed, leaders have just been tiptoeing around what to say, what to do, and he's like, no, what are we doing? We are mission oriented institutions. Go back to our mission, go back to our purpose, go back to the purpose of higher education. What are we to teach the people that attend our institutions if we're not standing up for our entity, if we're not standing up for our sector? And he's vowing, he says, let's stand up for the principles that make us who we are, which is the democratic principles, right?
And I was to be honest, for my day job, we do research projects with a group of academics from different colleges around the world. And the U.S. ones, the financial stress they're dealing with between the NIH cuts and just other, it is devastating what's about to happen to American higher education.
But also keep in mind that they just put crazy nutso Jeanette Nunez, the lieutenant governor, is now the president of FIU. That's what they'll do. They'll put those people in. So yes, higher ed better act fast before they're all replaced.
Right, and to the point of your point that you were making about cuts, right? But if they don't stand up, right, they're still going to get the cuts anyway.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
so why not just
what do you
stand up?
lose?
Right.
Like, what do you have to lose? Like, stand up, have some opposition, right? Like,
Because-
let's not give this guy a blank slate, because like what it feels like right now, it feels like we're just giving him a
Yeah.
blank slate. Do whatever, because there's not that much opposition. Because we're going to stay silent, because we don't know. We don't want our funds cut. He's going to do what he wants to do. As we already stated, there's no rules. So he's going to do it no matter what. So let's oppose him. Let's stand up. Let's fight.
Yeah. And like if the federal workers, they have to understand, by not doing a mass walkout, they're still helping him implement his tyranny.
That's right.
And like you have to start taking those mechanisms away.
And I can go on and on about FIU and the public institutions of Ron DeSantis.
Yeah.
Our public institutions in Florida are
It's devastating.
it's I would never send my son, unfortunately, to a public institution in Florida because of the state of it, right? The fact that last year we saw colleges and universities with the book ban have large like trucks throwing away books, right? Throwing away really good quality books.
And the schools are suffering. People aren't applying to go
That's
to
right.
school here. Yeah.
That's right. Anyhow, we can go on with the story, but that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There's no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.